The day I found out my best friend was using my photos for her dating profile, I was in the middle of a boring Wednesday afternoon at the boutique, pretending to care about linen blends. The store smelled like eucalyptus and new sandals. A playlist of moody indie tracks was trying too hard in the background. I stood behind the counter, clicking through a spreadsheet, and noticed I had 15 message requests on Instagram. 15. I don't get 15 messages in a week, much less an hour. I tapped with that half-hopeful, half-dreadful feeling you get opening exam results. Some guy I didn't know, "Hey Noor, great chatting last night. I can pick you up at 7 if you're still down for pasta." Another, "We're still on for Friday, right? Loved your voice notes." A third, "We matched. Crazy small world. You looked even prettier in person today." I scrolled faster, my face heating. There were selfies attached, men I'd never met, smiling like we had inside jokes. "Hey," I said out loud to nobody, like maybe the eucalyptus would answer. The store was empty except for a pair of sisters in the back arguing softly over a wrap dress. The fourth message had a screenshot. My face, upturned in a laugh from 3 summers ago, was placed under the name Lila, 24. A dating app one recognized from the icon and the layout. My face again in a different photo, my graduation sorry, sunlight behind me. The bio said, "Art girl. Cat person. I like my coffee black and my men taller than me. I'm not an art girl, though I sell a lot of ceramic vases. I'm also 5'2", so taller than me is not a narrow field." There are precise moments in life when you feel something like a snow globe being shaken, a quiet blizzard of glitter and debris, your whole miniature world swirling. My first thought, embarrassingly, was whether the photos looked good. My second thought, who would do this? The answer arrived without effort, Maya. It didn't even require logic, just the way my stomach sank as if it already recognized the shape of the betrayal. When you've known someone since you were 11 and they lied about having braces because they thought braces were kind of edgy, you store those memories like little compass points. Maya and I had been everything to each other, co-conspirators, roommates, witnesses. She was the friend who picked me up when I broke up with Faisal, the friend who held my hair when I tried boxed wine for the first time, the friend whose codes I knew by heart because she picked passwords like Maya 2000, and kept them for 10 years. More message requests chimed in. One of the sisters glanced up from the wrap dress, brow raised, as if I were staging a drama on purpose. I put my phone down like it was hot. My thumbs were cold. I scrolled back up. The man who said we were on for Friday had a floral shirt and a puppy in his photos. I tapped his profile. He'd already replied to his own message, "Hello? Lila?" I typed, "Hey. This is Noor. I think you matched with someone using my photos." 3 dots wavered. "Wait, what? Like catfish?" "Yes." "Oh." His typing paused, then resumed. "Sorry that's happening to you." She said her name was Lila. The word "she" hit something soft. I wrote, "Do you remember her handle? Did she give a number?" He sent a screenshot. Lila, 24. The bio was identical, down to the coffee line. He'd saved her number as Lila, app, with a red heart emoji. I stared at the digits. I knew them. I'd watched them appear for years on my phone screen with a biting ringtone we set in year 2 of university, when we were being dramatic about being soul friends. Maya's number. I stared at the floor, which was a polished concrete we called storm gray on the website. Gray expanded until it was the only color in the room. But there was still the high whistle of the AC and the occasional clink of hanger-on rod. There was a delivery man buzzing the door, and my boss's email asking if we could do a Reels collaboration with a soap brand. It felt absurd that the world kept moving when something had crunched in my chest with a sound I couldn't categorize. I didn't text Maya right away. Instead, I went to the bathroom, locked the stall, sat on the closed lid, and started reading all the message requests. A theme emerged. A handful were polite, the kind of "nice to meet you and best of luck" you might send if you realized you were being lied to. But more than a few were angry. "So what, you ghosted me? Why pretend to be someone else? That's messed up." One had a voice note, a guy, voice brittle with disappointment, saying, "I defended you to my roommates." In the stall, feet planted on the floor, I began to shake. "When we were 20, Maya said, we are mirrors." She'd been reading some book about twin flames and cosmic connections. "I reflect your best self, and you reflect mine. That's what friendship is at its purest." I'd laughed, teasing, "So when I look amazing, it's because I'm seeing you?" "Exactly," she'd said, pinching my cheek. "We are the same face, different moods." I was always the mood that looked like reliable work, full water bottles, notes with highlighted headings. Maya was the mood like glitter eyeshadow, voice notes with jokes that landed, men who turned toward the sound of her laugh as if caught by gravity. We were not the same face. Not in any way that mattered. When my shift ended, I walked home. The sky had decided on a kind of bruised blue, the pavements slick with last night's rain. I tried to cue my anger, line it up behind other emotions and schedule it for later, after dinner, but it refused. I called Maya. She picked up on the second ring. "Noor." "Hi," she said. Always that warm thrum in her voice, as if you were her favorite person right this second. "Maya, are you Lila?" Silence, a full breath's worth. I knew she was calculating, not because she was a liar by default, but because lying for her was like trying on a jacket. How does it fit? Does it look good? "Okay," she said. "Okay, don't be mad. It's my face on a stranger's phones." "It's your face," she corrected quickly, "and my words. It's like a collage. Don't be dramatic." "I have messages," I said. "I'm getting messages on my Instagram. People think I'm, what, playing games." "Oh my God, seriously? I didn't think they'd find you. I didn't tag. What is wrong with you? Can we talk not on the phone?" she said, voice crumpling just the right amount. "Come over. I'll make tea. Please." I didn't have to go. That's what my reasonable brain said. But the other brain, the one with the muscle memory of years, was already on the bus, already swiping my card, already watching the city slide by like a muted film. Maya's apartment smelled like coriander and something sweet. She had candles lit, because she was the kind of person who lit candles. She opened the door in shorts and an old tea with a cartoon lemon. "Noor," she said, and for a second we weren't fighting and we were 17, building forts out of blankets in her parents' living room. Then I stepped in and the weight returned. "Why?" She looked genuinely wounded. "Because, okay. Be honest. When I'm in photos with you, how many likes do I get?" "Like, double what I do alone." "People respond to you." "They always have." "That's not a reason." She set down a mug. "You know I've had a slump. If one more date tells me I'm intimidating or a lot," she laughed, but it was sharp. I wanted to try something new. A different approach. A different face. Her shoulders sagged. "Don't make me sound like a villain. I'm still me. I just borrowed the cover." That cover is my body, I said. My body walking around out there. My face in someone's fantasies. My eyes looking back at them. You put me into rooms I didn't consent to enter. She took a step toward me. I would never let anyone hurt you. This isn't about safety, I said, and realized suddenly that it was, a little. What if someone sees me on the street and thinks I'm the liar who ghosted them? What if someone followed me because they're angry? You gave people a direct line to me, in their heads. She rubbed her forehead. Noor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it got messy. I'll stop. I'll delete the profile. The apology didn't land. I felt a breathless panic under my ribs. How many people? I don't know. You messaged them from your number. Some of them, she said, and I hated the way her eyes skittered away. I used a burner for others. A burner? I can afford an extra SIM, she said, defensive now. Everyone does it. I was quiet so long she filled the space. She always had a talent for filling space, silences, awkward parties, my empty Sundays after a breakup. I'll delete everything, she said, reaching for her phone. Right now. Look. I watched her open the app. Her bio. My photos. The match list, a cascade of faces, all with their little chat previews. My throat closed. You told them you were an only child, I said. What does that matter? You know I'm not, I said, and hated myself for the pettiness, but also loved myself briefly for the precision. You wrote about moving a lot growing up. That's my line. You lifted my story to make your profile interesting. You shared it with me, she said, as if this were the same thing. For me, I said. Not for your collage. Her hand hovered over the delete account button. I'll do it. Then what? I asked, for everyone you already deceived. They'll move on, she said softly. People do. It's an app. I looked at the match list again. The faces blurred. They were individuals with lives and kindnesses and bad days. Some of them believed in Lila. Some thought they'd been rejected by me now. The weight pressed heavier. Give me your phone. Noor. Give me your phone, I repeated, and I made my voice the one she had always listened to when I said we were leaving the party, or that man's smile wasn't safe, or she needed to drink water. She handed it over. I sat on her couch, knees to my chest, and scrolled through the conversations. You told this person you liked the National because you grew up on Melancholy. You hate the National. She groaned. Everyone likes the National. You told this one you were allergic to shrimp. You ate a shrimp taco in front of me yesterday. You're missing the point. No, I said. You're missing the cost. What are you doing? She asked as I tapped the tiny gear icon in the app and opened settings. Wait. Don't worry, I said. I'm not deleting it. I changed her bio first. I deleted art girl and cat person and the coffee line. In its place, I wrote, these photos belong to Noor. This profile is a catfish. If we chatted, message me. I'll explain. I added my actual Instagram handle. Are you insane? She hissed. I'm exposing you to every match, I said. You can't. She leaned over me as if she might snatch her phone back, but she didn't. We had fought, of course, in 100 small ways, over rent, over whose turn it was to clean the stove, over the slow drift of our 20s, but we had never fought like this. I started copying and pasting a short message to each chat. Hi. This is Noor, the person in the photos. This profile belongs to my friend Maya, who used my pictures without my consent. I'm safe, but this is not me. Please unmatch. If you'd like a fuller explanation, DM me at Noor ________. Maya paced behind the couch, muttering. You're humiliating me. I looked up at her. If there was a moment in which the version of me who was conflict-averse would have softened, it was this one. I thought about the first year we moved in together and the cheap curtains we hung with tape that kept falling, and how Maya's laughter filled the bare room like furniture. I thought about the night I called her sobbing at 2 a.m. because my grandfather died and she showed up with soup, and how she would tuck a blanket around me like I was a gift. I also thought about the men who had sent me messages, my face already threaded into their days, and how one of them had said he defended me to his roommates. Maybe you need to be humbled, I said, and winced at my own sanctimony. Or maybe you need to stop thinking your apologies erase the harm. They don't, she said quickly. I know that. I'll call them. It's not about calling them, I said. It's about you seeing how big this is. She stopped pacing. Okay, she said, in a voice I hardly recognized, small. Okay. I messaged the first 50 matches. Then 100. There were a lot. A nauseating lot. Some responded right away, little shocked exclamations and variations of, thanks for letting me know. One sent a thumbs up. Another, a long paragraph, I wondered if something was off. You seemed different in the voice note than in your photos. I'm sorry this happened to you. The more I wrote, the less shaky my hands became. Anger, when given a task, can transform into something like purpose. We took a break because our fingers hurt. Maya brought water. She perched on the coffee table and said, I didn't do this to hurt you. I know, I said. You did it because it worked. We both considered that. I thought of the map of our friendship, how many places it had been, how many times we had renamed things when they got inconvenient. We had called jealousy concern. We had called enabling loyalty. We had called selfishness independence because it sounded prettier. She said, it made me feel wanted. Not the me that gets accused of being too loud. Not the me that has to perform an acceptable kind of woman to be dateable. Your face is softer, Noor. People read tenderness into it. That's not a compliment, I said. It's not about you. It's about what they give to a face they decide is soft. Maya's eyes were glossy. I don't want to be punished because I'm not that face. So you punished me instead? I wanted to take the question back the moment it left. She made a sound like a laugh and a sob decided on a frown. I punished the system, she said. I punished the idea. I used your image to trick it. Which is so stupid. It's all so stupid when I say it out loud. We stared at the blinking cursor in yet another chat. She whispered, I am sorry. I believed her. I also didn't, which is its own kind of belief, the belief that sorry is a word and not a transformation. We're not done, I said, and went back to the messages. By late evening, I'd sent the account-wide PSA. I also posted a story on my Instagram, a selfie, no filters, tired eyes, hair in a bun. If you matched with someone named Lila using these photos, it wasn't me. Please read the next slides. The next slides were text on a plain background. I kept it simple. I didn't drag Maya by name. I explained the bare facts and asked for people's patience. I turned my comments on. I blocked nobody. I thought it would stop there. It didn't. My DMs filled with a second type of message, women. This happened to me too, one wrote. My cousin used my photos for her profile 2 years ago, another wrote, and when I found out, she said it was because I had more approachable features. We didn't talk for months. A woman said a coworker had created a fake account with her pictures just to see what kind of men you attract. Another said a friend had used her photo as a proof of life pic for a long-distance boyfriend she'd never met. When he asked for a video, the friend panicked and ghosted him, and the fallout scorched their entire friend group. The stories had similar bones: the casual theft of a face, the rhetoric of borrowing, the chorus of "don't be dramatic," the blur between frictionless online life and the bodies that anchor the images. Maya watched me read. She read over my shoulder for some, she kept distance for the ones that made my eyes close softly at the end. "Are you going to post about me?" she asked. "No," I said, and didn't add, "today." I didn't want to lock in a punishment while my emotions still looked like spilled paint. "I'll call my mom," she said, out of nowhere. "I'll tell her what I did." She always wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor so people would say things like principled and dedicated when they introduced me. "I'm sure she'll like this better." I smiled despite myself. "You don't need to humiliate yourself to make it even." "I need," she said softly, "to be a person who can say the thing plainly." "Okay." I nodded at the phone on the coffee table. She called. I listened to her say it plain, her face changing colors like weather. She held the phone away for a minute while her mother spoke, and then put it back to her ear and said, I know, and you always said she was the better one, and that's the point, Ma," and finally, after a long, steady silence, "I'll fix it." When she hung up, she stared at her folded hands. She said she's not disappointed in me. She's disappointed in who I keep being when I don't think anyone is looking. She turned her hands over and looked at her palms as if they could tell her what she held. There's a word for that, isn't there? Character. At some point, after the tea and the calls and a bowl of burnt popcorn we ate while sitting on the floor, I went home. I turned off my phone and lay in the dark and pictured all the threads pulling out from my face to strangers like the lines of a constellation. I could not name the shape. In the morning, my phone had more messages than I could answer. A few men had sent gentle questions. I replied with simple answers and suggested they report the profile. The app had flagged the account, I noticed when I checked from my own phone. By noon, it was gone. Maya texted, "I'm going to send an apology to everyone I messaged." She followed it with, "Not because you told me to." Then, "I mean thank you for telling me to." I saw drafts of what she would send. She showed them to me like school homework, but I didn't edit. It had to be in her voice. The first attempt was a press release. The second was a performance. The third was small and true. I used Noor's photos without her consent. That was wrong. I made my insecurity her problem and wasted your time. Please unmatch me. I'm closing my account for now. I'm sorry. It wasn't a spell. The day stayed ordinary. Crowds on buses, a broken umbrella blooming like a dead flower on a sidewalk, a child crying at a market stall because he wanted blue balloons instead of red. But nothing clicked back exactly as it had been. That night, I logged into the app one hadn't used in months and made myself a profile with 2 pictures I liked and one that was objectively odd, a grainy shot of my hands holding a cracked seashell, the kind of photo that told nothing useful and everything true about me. I wrote, "Reader, home cook, occasionally lost. I make grocery lists for fun. I like people who bring their own sunlight." I didn't think too hard about it. If someone read softness into my face, that was their line, not mine. If someone read stubbornness, or untidiness, or too much water in my eyes, sure. I had my own body to be in. That felt suddenly like the gift. The first night, I didn't swipe at all. I just let my profile sit in that digital tide, a small honest boat. Then I put my phone face down and called my sister to tell her about Maya. She made that little clicking sound we shared, told me she loved me, told me to come over for stew, told me it was okay to grieve the shape of my friendship as much as I grieved the fact itself. The word grieve did something terrible and necessary. I cried so hard I got a headache. The next week rearranged itself with the slow seriousness that follows an earthquake. Maya came to my shop with a Tupperware of chicken biryani and left it without staying, as if food was a language she was learning carefully. My mother asked me on a walk if I wanted her to call Maya's mother, and I said no, and she said, I will call anyway, to talk about the weather and how pretty our daughters are and not mention the wound in the middle, because that's what mothers do when they're scared the thing is bigger than they know. We walked along the lake and fed bread to fish and were quiet. Men I'd messaged in the exposure wave trickled into my DMs with kindness, some of it clumsy, some thoughtful. A few apologies arrived too, from people who had been harsh in their confusion. Sorry I called you names. I felt stupid and took it out on you. I appreciated those more than I expected. I learned that closure doesn't look like a door closing so much as the initial gust of air calming. A woman named Farzana asked if she could interview me for a small podcast she ran about online identity and consent. I said no at first. You don't owe your wound to the world's microphone, but changed my mind after a cup of tea and a night's sleep. I set one boundary: we wouldn't name Maya. We'd talk about faces and bodies and the ease with which a photo slips from being yours to being everyone's. The day of the recording, I texted Maya, a podcast might mention the situation. Not identifying you. She replied, thank you for protecting me. I don't deserve it. I typed and erased a lot of things. I ended with, you're my friend. I didn't add, and you hurt me, because it was equally true and didn't need to crowd that moment. Under the studio lights, my skin felt too big and then just right. The host asked how I knew, when I changed the bio and messaged all the matches, that it wasn't vengeance. I didn't, I said. It felt like clean anger, but anger is an unreliable narrator. I did it because it was the only action that felt proportionate to the scale of harm. And maybe because I wanted to write the ending myself. We don't get that luxury often. She asked if I forgave Maya. I said, not in a way that fits into a neat bow on the end of a podcast. I love her, I'm furious, I think she's trying. All those can live in one chest at once. After, outside, there was a pop-up flower market. I bought marigolds and handed half to a stranger because the bouquet was too heavy. On a Sunday after the recording, Maya and I met at our favorite cheap cafe. The table was wobbly as always, the tea was too sweet, which is to say perfect. She arrived with no makeup, a rare event, and a small notebook. I wrote some things I want to say without making excuses, she said. You don't have to. I do, she said, and read. It was a page of sentences, not crafted, just set down. I made a story about the marketplace instead of looking at myself. I made Noor's face a suggestion box. I made myself a collage because I didn't like the whole. I am trying to be someone who doesn't make other people hold my weight. I am learning to sit on my hands before I reach for the thing that is not mine, even if the thing is easy. I exhaled, something loosening. You are very good at sentences, I said, because sometimes love speaks in compliments so it doesn't drown. And tea, she said, lifting her cup. I'm determined to be good at tea. We made a deal, as if we were kids again. We would tell each other when we felt the itch to make a choice because it was easy or because it was true. We would not lie to make a story go down smoother. We would. This part made us both roll our eyes, vote against ourselves sometimes. The deal did not fix the weeks that had come before. There were still things unstitched between us. There were still nights I didn't pick up her calls because the work of being gracious felt like climbing while carrying bricks. There were still the little flinches when I saw my face in a stranger's glance. But there were also trivia nights where Maya got all the 2000s cartoon theme songs correct and sang them complete with hand motions. There were afternoons where she held my phone while I cut my hair and zoomed me into even layers, laughing when I gasped at the first chopped chunk. There were text messages about the visceral joy of mango season, and one where she sent a picture of her phone with the dating app icon deleted and said, "I'm taking a break. I want to learn how to be alone without making a costume out of anyone else." A few months later, a man named Asan messaged me on the app. He worked night shifts as a medic and sent me a photo of his cat in a cone, tragic and adorable. We talked about the precise right ratio of salt to sugar in popcorn and which minor characters in novels deserved their own spin-offs. When we met in person, it was raining, and his umbrella flipped inside out, and we both laughed harder than the moment deserved. Maybe that's what soft meant, giving laughter freely to the sight of an umbrella quitting. He didn't tell me what my face made him think. He asked if I wanted to share fries. He met Maya a month later at a barbecue, where she stole his spot at the grill and oversalted a batch of mushrooms and made the toddlers shriek with a dance move that could only be described as too much wiggle. He liked her immediately. After, he said, "Your friends love fiercely." I said, "Some more ferociously than wisely," and we both smiled, but I think he saw what I meant. Loving is a series of risks. So is being loved by someone who has not yet learned the shape of their own hunger. Even now, sometimes at night, I open my photos and look at my face. Not selfies, but the accidental captures, my reflection in a cafe window when I'm laughing, the distorted edge of me in a spoon in a friend's kitchen, the shadow on pavement that could be anyone's until you know it's yours because of the tilt of the head. I repeat quietly, "This is mine. This is mine." Not as a wall, but as a prayer. And when I get message requests from strangers now, there is a new pattern. "I saw your story months ago," someone writes. "Thanks for explaining how it felt." A woman says she confronted her cousin and it was horrible and she did it anyway. A man says he didn't know catfishing could be about more than men being tricked by bad actors. He hadn't considered the person whose photos were taken might be walking around town buying oranges while his roommate argued about her morality. I write back. Not because I have become a spokesperson for a cause I never applied to lead, but because the small act of replying feels like the right size of kindness. I say, "Thank you," and "I hope the conversation went okay," and "It's your face." That's a big thing. Maya is still my best friend. She is also, in the story that gets retold at parties when someone asks how we met, the person who once used my photos and whom I exposed by changing her bio and messaging every match. We don't tell the story often, we decide together when we do. In our version, the punchline is always something like, "We have a shared Dropbox for pictures now," and everyone laughs, and the laughter lands like rain, a softening. The serious part, the part where she says she learned something about the shape of her hunger and I say I learned to make my anger do labor instead of letting it rot me from the inside, that part is ours. We keep that not as a secret, but as a joint purchase we both maintain. Last week, I found an old photo in my camera roll, Maya and me at 19, cheeks pressed together, summer sweat shining, hair stuck to our necks. Our faces are rounder, the filter's tragic. The caption says, "Two halves of the same melon." I showed it to her, and she groaned and clutched her heart. Melon? Melon? We were so cringe. We are still cringe, I said fondly. Just better edited. She hugged me, tight as a wound healing. Promise me if I ever try to borrow something again, you'll wrestle it out of my hands. Promise me you'll keep your hands in your pockets, I countered. She laughed but didn't argue. There is a phrase I read once that lodged in me like a tooth: we are responsible for the stories we tell about each other. If that's true, then we are also responsible for the stories we tell each other about ourselves. I am trying to tell the true ones, even when they don't make me sound like a hero. The true story here is that I loved someone who hurt me, and I hurt her back in a way that tried to repair the world as much as it punished her. The true story is that it helped. The true story is that it still hurts sometimes. The true story is that every morning, I put on my face, ridiculous and ordinary, and walk into a world that wants to turn it into content. I refuse to become content without my consent. When I feel small, when the old embarrassment rises like a tide, I think of the men who got a message from me with plain facts and then unmatched in quiet solidarity. I think of the women who said, "Me too," and meant it. I think of Maya's notebook with sentences about character. I think of my sister feeding me stew while nodding along to my outrage like the world's most patient metronome. And sometimes I think of Lila, the name Maya chose. A pretty name, a name with curl to it. A name with no damage of its own. Poor Lila, who never existed. Poor Lila, who took the blows of men's small fears and women's big longings for a face that could go anywhere in safety. Poor Lila, whom we retired with as much gentleness as we could manage, deleting her icon like a goodbye letter. Once, weeks later, a message pinged on the app. It was almost midnight, and I was about to sleep. I opened it because I am still sometimes the girl who wants to know the end of every story. "Hey," it read. "We matched a while ago when things were messy." I didn't say anything then because I wasn't sure what was real. "This is weird, sorry. Just, hope you're okay. And I liked your caption about grocery lists." I smiled in the dark. I replied in the morning, "I don't write back at midnight anymore." But I saved the message. Not because I was interested in him, he seemed nice, it never went anywhere, but because it felt like a little note the universe had slipped under my door, reality, interrupted by kindness. Maya and I have inside jokes again. They are not armor, they are just friendly tools we use to gently nudge the day into a shape we can live with. She caught my phone on the couch last Tuesday and made a dramatic gasp. "You got a new match, Miss Approachability." "Shut up," I said, then added, "because we are the kind of people who turn splinters into sculptures. Thank you for not making me a costume anymore." She threw a pillow at me. "Thank you for not leaving me in the dressing room. We are not mirrors." That was the lie we loved. We are two distinct, mismatched pieces, still trying to be a decent puzzle, still throwing ourselves into the box and seeing if we make a picture. When we do, it's not because one of us borrowed the other's edges. It's because we put our shapes next to each other and let the gaps between us be part of the art. When my phone lights up now with message requests, I don't flinch. I pick it up, I read slowly, I answer if I want to, I delete if I don't. My face, my rules. My story, written with my own clumsy hand. The end.